Morning everyone. So a week or so ago I posted on my Creative Cafe page and I said that you could make Christmas decorations out if you use PS159, which is my Paperartsy stencil. This is the one with the templates, and using stamp sets, ETS34, which is one of my older release pattern play, and also ETS44, which is one of the new pattern play stamps. They will both work for this, so whichever one you've got, they will both work. So primarily we're going to be using, to make the actual decoration itself, we're going to be using the scallop shapes. Those are the ones that we use to actually make the shape itself, and then the circle type shapes are what we use to decorate on top. So and I'm going to show you another idea as well at the end, using this stencil with your ink pads to build patterns as well, so we'll do that as well. Okay, so I'm going to put this to one side. The first thing I need to do, I need some card. So let's just grab a piece of card. And my stencil. And obviously you can do any colour for this. I've actually taken the masks out, so the masks are in the back. Obviously they can be used to mask off, but primarily we are using the actual stencil itself today for what we're doing. So what I'm going to do, I am going to use red lipstick and claret. So red lipstick is going to be the main bulk of the colour for my decoration. Claret, I'm just going to add some shadow around the edge with the claret, and then I'm going to use the cerulean to do my circle decoration for the middle. We are going to do some embossing on that. You don't have to emboss, but we're going to do some embossing on that as well. So all I'm going to do to start with is I'm just going to put some of my paint onto my craft mat, and obviously I'm going to need a sponge to do this. So I'm going to grab a sponge. I'm going to do both sizes just so that I can show you how both sizes work. So I'm just going to place that down. Obviously make sure your stencil's up the right way. I say it every time, but make sure your stencil's up the right way, because it does make a difference to your stenciling and what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to load up my sponge, and I'm just going to start dabbing through. So all I'm trying to do at the moment obviously is just get the shape. So I want to get this template shape, and I'm not going to worry too much if it bleeds a little bit. I'm not going to panic too much, because I am going to trim this down afterwards and ink. This is just my base for my stamping. So I'm just going in with the red first. So this is the red lipstick, which is the brighter of the two colours. And we are going to stamp over the top of this. And then I'm just going to put a tiny bit of that claret on the sponge, just a little bit. And I'm just going to go around the edge and just have a little bit of a shadow. You certainly don't have to do it. You could do it all one colour. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a shadow going on around the edge. And obviously you work quick with this. Paperartsy paints dry really quickly, so you do want to work really quickly. And I can go in, if I feel that it's not blended properly around the edge, I can just go back in with a little bit more of the red and just go over the top. Okay, so that's my first one, and then I'm going to repeat the same and do that with my second. And I do it on both sizes, and that way you can see how it works with both sizes. So this was one of the first stencils really that I ever created that had a real purpose other than just stenciling, and I know it was very different to a lot of the other stencils that I've done. So people kind of looked at it and didn't really understand what it was for, what you would do with it. Of course you can use it as a stencil and just use the shapes, but it was done for a specific reason. So I'm just going to do the same with that one. I'm just going to add a little bit of a darker edge. I'm not going to stress too much. This is going to be stamped over, and as I said, we are going to trim the edges as well. So and because the reds are translucent, sometimes you do need to put that second coat over to get a good coverage. But as I said, we are stamping over the top, so a lot of it is just going to end up being colour that's going to sit in the background. Okay, so I've got those done. Okay, so that gives me my 2 shapes. So I'm going to give that a quick dry, because I want that to be dry before, obviously before I stamp on top. Right, okay. So what we do to create the decoration. So I'm going to take one of the stamps from ETS 34. So this was the first pattern play stamp set. I'm going to take one of the larger stamps for, now I tell you what, let's do the smaller one from, one of the smaller ones from ETS 34, because they are made, the smaller ones are specifically for this size of decoration. So let's do a smaller one from that, and then I'm going to take one of the larger stamps from ETS 44 to do the other one. So let's do it that way, and then we can use one from each stamp set. So what I want to do, and I'm just going to do this with my black ink pad, so I'm just putting my stamp onto my block, give it a good ink. And then I'm going to line it up as best I can in the top, facing the point. Okay, so you can see that's stamped. And the trick is to always do the top and bottom first. The other 2 that go in, you can match up quite easy, but the top and bottom you need to do first. Okay, and then the second one, so I'm just going to go in again in the other direction. So you can see I've now got those 2. Then the trick is to go in with these ones, because these ones, it doesn't matter if these overlap, because we're going to put some sort of decoration in the middle. So it doesn't matter if they overlap a little bit. So always do it a little bit further in than you think you need to. So if you look at that, you can see, even though we've got this going on in the middle, I'm not worried about this because I know that we're going to put some sort of decoration over the middle. But you can see it gives you that shape. So that was the idea. So same thing, let's go in with the bigger one. So the bigger stamp, we're going to go in on the bigger shape. Okay, so same thing again. I'm going to do, the top first, top and bottom, and then I'll do the 2 sides, because I don't care what's going on in the middle. It doesn't matter to me what's going to go on in the middle. So again, go in, 2, and there is a difference, because obviously these are rubber stamps. If we were using clear stamps, if I had designed clear stamps, I could have made a stencil where it matched up perfectly, but obviously I'm not. I'm using red rubber, and you can't see through red rubber. So I just adapted it to be able to do what I wanted it to do. Okay, so you can see I've stamped that. I've got the gap in the middle, it doesn't matter, not worried about that. Okay, so what I can now do, I'm just going to give it a quick blast, just to make sure that ink's dry so I don't smudge it. Then what I am going to do now is I'm going to go in and I'm going to trim them both up. So I'm going to go in and I'm not going to go to the edge of the red, I'm going to trim in just around the edge of the shape, the stamp shape. And if I've got a bit sticking out somewhere, then I'll just cut across it, just to tidy it up. So I want that nice shape. So there I had a tiny bit sticking out. I'll just cut it off because we're going to ink around the edge. So anything that you've cut off, if you're having a little trim up, it's not going to notice. So let's do that one. So that gives me that shape. And then this one, you can see obviously this one's, I need to make allowances on this one. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to trim up, I'm going to go round, and then I'm going to ink all the edges afterwards. And I don't care, if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter. You can see I'm just trimming. I don't stress too much if it's not exactly right. Of course you can take a bit more time trying to line up if you want to. I'm not going to stress over that. Okay, so that gives me that shape. Okay, so then I'm going to get my ink pad and I'm going to give it a real good inking around the edge so that it gets rid of any of the white core where we've cut out, but it also gives me a nice shadow going on around the outside. So anything where maybe I've cut a piece away because it wasn't lined up properly is going to be disguised. Okay, so put that down. Same on this one. So if I go round now and give it a real good inking around the edge, so you can kind of see by inking any of those edges that didn't marry up quite right, you just really don't notice anymore. So you can see that gives me a nice stamped image for both of those. So what I want to do now, I'm going to put those to one side. I'm going to grab myself another piece of card, and what I'm going to do with this is I want to do some sort of gold embossing for the centre. So let me grab my embossing pad, and I want to grab one of my circle stamps. So I'm not worried too much about the fact, because if you look at this one, if I put one of these big circles over, if I put one of the big circles over, obviously it's going to be far too big for this stamp, but for this image, but I can cut them down. All of these, it doesn't matter which one I use, they can be cut down. So I'll trim up what I need. So I'm going to go for, I think on this one, I'm going to go for ETS 44. So I'm going to stamp this one, and I'm going to stamp this one. And I'm going to heat emboss those in gold. So I'm going to stamp them out first. I need to work pretty quick because even though the embossing ink stays sticky for quite a while, it is very, very hot today. So I know it's going to dry quicker than usual. So I'm just making sure I get a good image with the two stamps. So I can either, so for this, I can either do these black and or gold and white, or what I could do is I could paint a layer of cerulean. So if you look at this one, I painted a layer of cerulean underneath and then added the gold on top. I was going to do that, but I kind of thought, no, I'm gonna do it this way so that you can see the difference, see what it looks like. So you can either paint the colour underneath and then obviously emboss on top, or you can do it this way. I'm going to grab a piece of paper quickly because I can see already that this is starting to dry. I'm going to get my embossing powder over the top fast because I can see that that's starting to dry already. Very, very warm. That's good. And I love using gold embossing powder because it looks quite dull. When you put it on, it looks quite dull. But when you emboss it, it goes a real bright colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let the heat gun heat up for a couple of seconds and then I'll go in and heat emboss. So you can see, got a nice gold heat embossed image. And then what I'm going to do the opposite to what I did on here. So where I did the cerulean for the larger circle and the black and white for the top, I'm going to do one of my smaller images in the cerulean, so you can see what it would look like the other way around. So I'm just putting a little bit of cerulean on my mat, and I'm just going to give a little paint. I just need enough to stamp a couple of images. And you could do this with black embossing. I'm just going to do it with a black ink pad. But I just need enough just to stamp a couple of images on top. So I've got that, I'll get it dry. Stamp the small circle, and I'll do this in my black. So I'm going to stamp two. I might not use both, but I'm going to stamp two just in case. And then if I do use both of them, that's fine. If not, then that's fine. Okay. So obviously what we need to do now is we need to get these cut out. So I'm going to keep this one. So this one I'm going to keep at full size, I think. Or shall I do it the other way around? I'm not sure. No, yeah, I'm going to do this one at full size. So I'll keep this the size that it is. And then the other one I'm going to cut down to make it a little bit smaller for that smaller bauble. So, and I'm going to ink around the edges of these as well, just to finish them off. So, I'm going to cut that. Obviously I need to cut this one. And I'm going to cut my two small circles. I don't know if I'm going to use both of them, but I'll give them a trim up. And then I can decide afterwards if I'm going to use both. So what I'm going to do with this one, because obviously this one's big, it's going to cover the whole of that. I think I'm just going to cut out the flower image. I might even cut it down even more when I'm finished. I'm going to have a look. I'm going to cut it and then I'll have a look and see if I want to cut it down a little bit smaller. And of course, any circle stamps that you've got, you know, I've got other circle stamps in other sets that I could certainly use to do the same thing. these will work. So let's have a quick look. Yeah, see, that fits fine, so I'm quite happy to have that on there. So I've got that one, so that one's going to go on there. That one is going to go on there. I could even, I'll tell you what I am thinking. See, I like this, that you can play as you go along. So what I'm thinking is, I'm going to paint some more of my cerulean. So I'm just going to paint some more of my cerulean on my piece of card. Because what I'm thinking is, for the larger one, I think I want to cut a cerulean circle to go around it. So I'm just going to get that dry. So I know that this is a little bit larger, so because it's been made to be a little bit larger, so I know it's a little bit larger than that. So what I am going to do is I shall flip this over, so I know that that's where my blue is. Because I don't have to, I could draw it on the front. And then I'm going to cut that out, so you can see I've just drawn around it. I'm going to cut that out just outside that line, so it's a tiny bit bigger even than the circle that I've drawn. And then that's going to be bigger than that gold centerpiece. Because I'm thinking that's going to just give that a real nice, it's going to give it a nice edge. And it's going to tie it in with that turquoise that I'm going to put in the centre. So when I flip that over now and put this one on top, see I've got that turquoise. So that when that goes onto there, that's giving me a nice edge. So, and then I'm just going to go in and I'm just cutting out these two small circles, and then I'll decide whether I want to put them on there or not. And that's the beauty, you can just play around and decide what you want to do. But quite cute that you can, you know, I'm all for using your stamps. I like those. I'm all for using your stamps for other things. I don't very often do something that's just with one purpose. So I'm not really a big fan of theme stamps. It doesn't mean that I haven't done them. It doesn't mean that I won't do them. Because I do. I have had Christmas stamps. I will have Christmas stamps. But it's quite nice when you've got stamps that you can use for a theme that weren't made for that theme, if that makes sense. Because it just means I'm very much about getting the most out of your products. We spend a lot of money on our stamps and stencils and our products, and it's about getting the most out of them, getting the most use out of them. So I'm very much about that. So I think this is a brilliant way to use what were designed as pattern stamps and to use them in a completely different way. So you're just going to get more use out of them. Okay, so I've just inked all the edges. I'm going to use 3D foam tape to mount all these up. Obviously you can just glue down. It doesn't have to be, certainly doesn't have to be foam tape. but I quite like the 3D element. So you can see, I'm just going to go in, I'm going to put my tape on the back of everything, and then I'm going to assemble. And obviously you can do these in as many colours as you like, any colours. I like the red and blue combination, but it certainly doesn't mean that they have to be in red and blue. But you could do, you know, blues and purples and silver embossing would look really good. So I'm just gonna go in and start assembling. And this one could go on top. And this one, I really like this one, it's cute. I like that stamp as well. So this one that can go on there. So that gives me 2 decorations. I can then go in, so if you see what I did on this one was I backed it onto white card as well. So let's grab another piece of card, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go on there, and I'm just going to draw around lightly in pencil. I could use the stencil to do it, but obviously what you have to remember is you've trimmed this to size, so it now might be slightly different to the original stencil. So I'm just going to trim it round, and then same with this one. Make sure I've got enough room to give me a border around the edge. And I'm just going to trim it. Just going to trim that slightly larger, so I'm going to give myself a little border. So you can just see I'm just going around. You can draw it in if you want to, but I'm just giving myself a little border all the way around the edge. And that just means it's going to stand out against that background. Of course, you don't have to do the white border. I like doing it. I think it gives it a nice, it makes it stand out. But you certainly don't have to. You can erase the lines afterwards if you want to. I'm not going to worry too much, but you can erase the lines as well. The pencil lines after, once you've cut. Okay, so there's one, and then I'm going to do the same with this one. Just give myself a little border around the edge. Don't be tempted to flip it over and stick on the other side, because your shapes are not going to be completely symmetrical. So you have to make sure whichever side you draw it on, that's the side that you stick down on. Otherwise you're going to find that you've got a little bit of a problem going on. So now, when I stick this down, just make sure I've got it the right way. You can see where it's not 100% symmetrical. You have to make sure it's the right way round. So that's going to be that way. And that one's fine. So a little bit of white glue. As I said, you can obviously you can erase the pencil lines. I'm not going to, for the purpose of demo, I'm not going to. And then we will stick that down. So that's one. And two. So how cute are those? So that gives us, and then all you need to do is obviously you get your crocodile or your hole punch, whatever it is you've got, punch a hole through. You can add gems, so you can see on this one I added some little sparklies, so you can add little sparklies going on. You can add white pen work, so you can certainly go in and add white pen work or any other pen work, glitter pen work. And then all I did was punch a hole through, so you can see I punched a hole through the back, thread through your ribbon or your string or whatever it is you're going to do, and tie off a bow. You certainly don't have to have a bow, but you can tie off a bow with your excess ribbon. We've all got tons of ribbon, I'm sure. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the video now because because we're already at 30 minutes. So, and I don't want you sitting there forever. And then what I'm going to do, I am going to do another little video using these stamps and using the coordinating stencil, and I will put that up as well. So thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll give this a go. You know, really cute. They're really cute and they're really cool for cards. You could ink the edges as well. Obviously you can put glitter on, you can really dress them up, but really cool for Christmas cards when you might not have Christmas stamps handy, or you might have used the same stamps for 3 years running. So thanks for joining me. Make sure that you post your makes, you know, tag me. I love to see what you're doing, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.